Yeah. Holy shit. Look who it is. The great David Rothkopf. Oh, I'm so
Ooh.
excited I get to talk to you today, sir.
I'm so excited to talk to you, Pete. You look great.
Why is it?
I beg your pardon? You dropped out there.
Hold on. I see why that's happening. Okay. There was two of us going on. Anyway, I'm very glad to talk to you today because there's a lot to talk with you about. Obviously, we've got to get right to the big story from the New York Times of emails between Michael Wolff and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And it seems like a pretty big deal. You're saying some pretty bold things as well as others on social media. What is different about this story? Why does this one matter?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's different. It's the same story. We knew that Trump was hanging around with Epstein for a long time. We have pictures of them hanging around together. We knew Trump was accused of, doing bad things with young women for a long time. He's been accused of doing bad things with women for a long time. We just here have more evidence that apparently was in possession of the Congress, but also likely was in possession of law enforcement officials, where you have Jeffrey Epstein, the most notorious pedophile in American history, saying, oh, yeah, Trump knows. Trump was in the room with this victim for many, many hours. Trump has not gotten caught up in this thing yet. And he's strategizing with somebody about, how do we use this information we have on Trump? I'm old enough to remember when, I don't know, Gary Hart didn't get to be president because he apparently, went on, had a fling with somebody, Howard Dean didn't get to be president because he went, whoa, and people thought that was a little bit weird, and here's Donald Trump repeatedly accused of sex abuse, openly corrupt, the most corrupt figure in history. How did we get to this place where, this is going to happen? And, the White House is like, this is a false narrative. And Mike Johnson is like, oh, this is a distraction. It's like, no, he's like, was doing horrible things. You wouldn't hire him if you ran the local stationery store. And here he is running, the most powerful country in the world. Ugh.
The defense are already been put out by Republicans in defense of Trump. They're saying that the redacted victim's name has already on the record publicly denied she was never involved or saw Donald Trump. Anyway, she's dead now, but she wrote a book about it, Virginia Giuffre, or however her name is pronounced. Forgive me. And so this new email is nothing we didn't already know. It's just Democrats putting out a different side of the story. But we know this young woman says she was never involved with Trump, so he's vindicated.
Vindicated for what? Trump said he didn't know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Trump said that his relationship with Epstein and his exchanges with him ended long before this. Trump said that he didn't do anything, improper with all of these young women. It's obviously not true, right? I mean, we all know that. There is not a single listener to your podcast or to this live stream who does not believe in their heart that Donald Trump, through Jeffrey Epstein and undoubtedly through other channels, had relationships with women who were too young, illegally young, unable to consent, because he's a disgusting sleazebag. We all know this. What we should be asking ourselves is, how do you get somebody who's so corrupt, so disgusting, so surrounded by fraud and accusations of bad behavior in literally every aspect of his life? How does he rise up? What does it say about us as a society that this is who we pick to be our leader and our face to the world? I mean, it's crazy.
Speaks volumes, I think, is what it says about who we are in our society. At least a certain percentage of us who have supported him versus those majority, I would argue, that are repelled by everything. And like you said, probably pretty unsurprised, but still still, this is such a major story unfolding today. And of course, you and others were right when they said, you're going to have the midterm elections, then the Democrats snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat. And guess what? Right back to Epstein. Here comes the New York Times story. Here comes the swearing in of the congresswoman from Arizona. Here comes more. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, there's going to be, more coming. I mean, you just said a bunch of things there, and I think we should unpack it. The Democrats did great in the elections. I think they're going to do great in next year's elections because of a bunch of, unfortunate reasons for all of us, largely because the economy is going to hell and a lot of Trump's policies are hurting people, But they then, of course, shot themselves in the foot when these 8 Democrats went and said, "Let's fold on the government shutdown," because and I don't even like to frame it as folding on the shutdown. The Democrats were standing up and saying, "Look, you guys have got to protect healthcare benefits for tens of millions of people. We can't take this away from them. And we're not going to go a step further until you do that." And it was the right position to take. They should have taken it in the spring rather than, allowing through the big, hideous bill of Trump. But at least they were taking it now. And then I think with the blink and a nod, consent of Chuck Schumer, they went ahead and did this. And it was terrible. But, having said that, it's not so terrible that it's going to distract from the main story, which is Trump's bad, MAGA's bad. They're doing bad things. It's making our lives shitty. And that's ultimately going to, produce electoral change in the United States.
Ultimately, I'm just really focusing on the general narrative, the things that are trending on social media and how they resonate with different demographics of people who are engaged and how they think about politics and this day-to-day shit show that we're living in. And it would seem that this Epstein story is one for everybody. It's for everybody. It's for the right. It's for everyone else. It's for young people. It's for people that care about goss. Sexual goss of powerful people. It's huge in the tabloids in the UK because
is goss a term we use these days?
Yeah, it's like sus.
Sauce?
Sus, like that's suspect.
Sus. Oh, sus. And
like
goss?
Trump is sus. There's a lot of goss about it.
Are you so afraid of exhausting yourself that you don't want to say the whole word? Are we conserving our energy?
I fully agree with all the criticisms of shortening words, but on the flip side, I am trying to appeal to the younger demo out there, and my daughters.
That's what getting a 69-year-old Jew from New Jersey on is going to help.
Who was booked?
Yeah.
There was a few. There were a few others already booked, so
the young ones were booked. So let's crank out this guy who looks like Hesh Rabkin.
Stop it! Now, you may look like that, but that doesn't mean you've ever done anything unsavory. Getting back to the point, that's a big story. That's the president of the United States. Everybody wants to know what happened. He had a wonderful secret. We're going to learn a lot more. This is going to be headlines for days and days. It should
be headlines forever. It's like Henry VIII killed his wives. Rasputin was, evil and did all this shit. Trump is one of the worst people who ever lived. People will be doing operas about Trump like they did operas about Bluebeard. He's like, no, seriously. He's a horrible guy. And the difference is Henry VIII, not elected. Rasputin, not elected. Bluebeard, not elected. And yet, here in our democracy, 75 million people said, oh yeah, there is this disgusting sex criminal, fraudster, felon, multiple bankrupt, liar, twisted motherfucker. Let's make him president. It's like it's insane.
What, if anything, have you heard about Republicans are going to start or already have started turning their backs on Trump because just how bad this looks like it? The only time that we saw that happen was after January 6th, and it was temporary. Remember, Lindsey Graham was like, I am done. I am out of here. But then like an hour later, he's like, I'm back, bitch. And I wonder if we're going to see something like that now. Aren't we going to see something like that?
What was that? Who was that Southern guy who went to jail who swears he's not gay, but who had his own reality show?
Oh, the Tiger guy?
No. There was this other reality show where, anyway, you just sounded exactly like that guy. But look, the Republicans, and frankly, there are a lot of Democrats like this too. They don't care about the substance. They care about their jobs. They just care what's going to win and what's going to lose. And so Trump comes along, and he is the stinkiest turd in the toilet bowl. But they think, oh, he's going to help me get elected. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do, swallow hard, hold my nose. I'm going to do it. The reason they're going to dump Trump has nothing to do with Epstein. It has nothing to do with this stuff. Trump knows what it has to do with. He's a lame duck. He's 80 years old. He's facing mortality. He is not going to be a figure in the party. Every single day, out of every pore of his body, relevance evaporates. And they know that he can't help them anymore. And so pretty soon they're going to start going, I wonder if JD can help me. Or I wonder if Kristi Noem can help me. Or I wonder if Marco Rubio can help me. Or I wonder if embracing Charlie Kirk's wife can help me. Or, they're going to start looking for the next train to get them to keep their job, keep their power, then keep all the money that flows to them as a result of all of that flowing. And that's why, Marjorie Taylor Greene, somebody who I know because we've been in the show a lot. You talked about her. You think about her. She's on your mind. She occupies a lot of your mental real estate. Yeah, exactly. I know. Marjorie Taylor Greene is all of a sudden being critical of Trump. Why? Did she learn something? Did she have a revelation on the road to Damascus? No. She just thinks, oh, this is good for me politically. And so she's made a calculation.
AOC said on her Instagram that I'm going to spill some tea. The reason why MTG has gone rogue is because she wanted to run for Senate, and Trump and company are like, oh, hell no. And they said no. And so she's mad. That's what she said. Don't know if it matters.
That's possible. Hey, look, AOC is a queen, and AOC is a real leader. And Chuck Schumer ought to go and follow her Instagram account and learn what a real leader does, how a real leader acts.
She's a queen and a kingmaker as well. Like her endorsement, her campaigning.
She made Mamdani. She did. He did. He carried a lot of weight himself, but. One of the reasons the Republicans try to marginalize her and talk about the squad and all that, they fear her. It's just a point I make over and over. I probably made it on your podcast, but let's make it again. 2028 is the first election in American history where the majority of the voters will be born since 1990. That means the decisive votes in the next presidential election are going to be millennials and Zoomers. And they are going to pick the people that address their issues, communicate with them effectively, and so forth. And, as it just happens, Mamdani, a weird Mamdani and AOC, they're exactly that cohort, right? AOC is a couple of years before 1990. Mamdani's a year after. But the point is, that's the future of American politics. And, 80-year-old, diaper wearing, sex offenders just aren't it.
All right. if you say so. Let me ask you then about.
If you say so. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I say
Let
so.
me ask you about Mamdani and the future of the Democratic Party. I've been trying to have conversations to move the Overton window where it belongs when we use any number of terms from moderate to centrist to radical to
Why do
extremist.
people use terms like the Overton window? I mean,
Is
is
there
it
a
to make
better?
them feel smart? No. It's just like, why do people? There's all this stuff. People are, oh, well, that's stochastic terrorism. I don't think it helps broaden an audience to use
There's a
language.
myriad terms, a plethora even that we could use. My vocabulary has only grown and grown by the day as I've been hosting this show. And I think that when I use certain terms mixed in with the rest of my meandering, that it really does impress people. That's why I use it.
I see.
The Overton window is a political model describing the range of policies considered acceptable by the public at a given time.
Yeah, no, I know what it is.
I know you
It's
know
just
what.
like, I mean, but the point is, I don't know why people use these kind of buzzwords.
Well, you tell me how to
There
make.
was like, oh, I want to be smart. I'm going to use this guy. It doesn't help communicate.
I think
Zoran Mamdani didn't talk about the Overton window. The reason he won is he talked normal words to normal people. I'm from New Jersey. That's all I understand. I don't understand your big fancy ass words from New York State.
Someone watching the live stream just sent me $50 as a way to thank me for using the phrase. So this is, listen, whatever. Trying to make money. But
oh yeah,
how do you? Because I want to replace that phrase because I think it's actually dumb because because nobody knows what it means. Just like nobody knows what democracy means, but nobody knows what moderate means. Nobody knows what radical means. You had
they
this
don't
great
mean anything. I mean, that's the discussion you should be having. It doesn't mean those terms, left and right and centrist and moderate, they don't mean anything. They are used by people who are trying to make a point. So most of the time in the media, if somebody's referred to as left or right, it's a criticism. And if somebody's referred to as moderate or centrist, it's not. And the reason is that the people who write the checks for the big media want to sell themselves as broadly acceptable. And so they want to promote the idea that their views, corporate views, are moderate. I just think it's all bullshit.
Well, I think it's bullshit too, but I would push back on the words don't mean anything because they mean something to everybody, and that's the problem.
No, I understand. They're misleading, is what I should have said is they're misleading terms.
For sure. They mean something different to everybody. Furthermore, when I first started my radio show, I tried to avoid all those terms, especially liberal and conservative, because I wanted to talk about people's thoughts on the issue that we were discussing during that hour or whatever. And you had this great conversation with EJ Dionne over at Need to Know, your Substack, talking about.
Yeah, and if anybody likes any of the words I'm using, go to Substack and subscribe to Need to Know because my words deserve financial support also.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them.
A lot of words.
It's all you do.
I use a lot of words.
I watched your conversation with EJ Dionne. I read your piece at the Daily Beast. I read your Substacks, watched your conversation with EJ Dionne, the Simon Rosenberg and Tara McGowan, which is really great, talking about the cave, the big cave. That's what I called it.
The big cave. You mean like Plato's cave?
No, that's a far
different cave. It's a different cave altogether.
Plato's cave was like Epstein Island. A lot of people didn't know that.
What was going on in there? And then Plato said, you see the shadows on the wall, but he didn't say they were 12-year-old girls.
And then
people don't realize how fucking erudite you are and this whole show is.
Oh, and people don't realize how much of a hypocrite you are after all of that, calling me erudite. Big giant word.
Do you remember the scene in The American President?
No.
The Michael Douglas movie where his girlfriend's Annette Bening, and then he comes out in his big scene. He makes this big speech where he says, I'm against this and I'm changing and I'm doing the right thing and I'm going to be the president you want. And his press secretary, Michael J. Fox, goes, Well, he's got a lot of reporters looking up how to spell erudite. That was a scene in the movie.
I wish I could have just thrown to it rather than having you explain to it. I mean, that's the world we live in now. Did you see blank last night? Just send me the link. Stop performing both sides of a conversation. Just link it to me. Getting back to Mamdani and what everybody's afraid of, and the conversation, the Overton window, the labels, just you guys did a deep dive into the history of kind of socialism, social democracy, and it's really helpful to watch that or think about it, because it's not scary at all. It's really the reason, one might argue, why people in many countries in Western Europe live longer and happier lives, is my understanding.
Of course. And what's more, their governments are more fiscally responsible. If you look at the countries of Scandinavia, which offer healthcare for everybody and offer a social safety net for everybody and provide education free for everybody and all these other things, they are always ranked higher in terms of fiscal responsibility than our government is, with our giant deficits and everything else. So it's better governance, it's good governance, it's also better for society. And the reason that we put big, loud labels on it, like this is socialism, is what? It's obviously in somebody's interest to scare people away from those policies, because governments that do that use taxes to provide for people, and they do a little leveling off, and it's not as good for the billionaires. It's not as good for the vulture capitalists. And, American capitalism is particularly tough on the bottom fifth of society. And over the course of the past 40 years, inequality has grown worse, and it's harder to get from the bottom to the top. The American dream, this idea of mobility, is dying because the people at the top get greedier and greedier, and they get more and more power. But, this tug of war between the super rich and everybody else in society has been going on since the beginning of time, the beginning of this country. Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they all warned about concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. Justice Brandeis warned of it. Franklin Roosevelt warned of it. Harry Truman said that whenever we do anything that the establishment doesn't like, they call it socialism. I'll tell you, I was talking to E.J. Dionne, who's writing a book on social democracy, as you know. And after it, I went downstairs into my little TV room, and I was decompressing, and I was watching Death by Lightning. Have you watched Death by Lightning?
No, but I know you watch a movie every day, which is fascinating.
I try to. But so this was a movie. This is a mini series on Netflix about the weirdest subject you could ever imagine a mini series on. It's about the assassination of President James Garfield. And it includes Matthew McFadden as the lunatic assassin who ultimately kills him. But it caused me to go back and look at all this because, Trump was all into this Gilded Age stuff. He was into President William McKinley. And of course, McKinley also got shot. Trump, so they may not have told Trump this. But the richness of the Gilded Age that he seems to like produced a huge backlash in America, where we actually had a socialist, Eugene V. Debs, who successfully was a candidate. I mean, he didn't win the presidency, but he was very prominent. And I did a little more digging, and I actually sent this to EJ shortly after. The president before James Garfield, Rutherford B. Hayes, probably your favorite president of all presidents, who nobody knows anything about except that he was president in the 1870s. Rutherford B. Hayes, after serving in all of these roles, wrote this long thing. Go to his Wikipedia page because you can find it there. And in it, he goes, if we continue to concentrate all the power in this country in the hands of the rich, we will fail as a democracy. And then a little bit later, he got involved in these conversations. He says, you know what we should think about? Socialism. Why is that relevant? Rutherford B. Hayes in the 1870s, in the wake of the Civil War, these dusty people in the far, far back of time realized that the issues that we're discussing today were big problems and they needed to be solved. So this has been around a long. It's not Zoran Mamdani. It's also Rutherford B. Hayes.
It's a really great history education, and it's important the way we learn about it. I saw somebody write on social media, socialism is not communism. Capitalism means anybody can be rich. Communism says nobody can be rich. Socialism says anybody can be rich, but nobody should be poor. I kind of like that simplistic, because I think
it's simplistic, but look, it's stupid. There are rich communists. God knows there are rich communists. All of these ideologies are corrupted as they're put into practice.
Right.
The idea that I think is really important here is that within social democracy, there is a sense that we all have an obligation to one another and to our communities. Within American capitalism, there is a sense that left to their own devices, individuals can do pretty well. And we don't need big social mechanisms to help people. In fact, the fewer of them, the better. We need to look at each other as part of a community. We need to, because it's in our interest to, and because it's the right thing to do. And American capitalism just doesn't do that enough.
That's for damn sure. American capitalism actively does a lot of other things. You could argue because it's all rigged. I mean, it's not even, it's all fixed. And name an industry, and we can talk about how it benefits certain people.
And all they do, look at the tech bros. All they have done since they were little babies in their tech bro wombs was try to gain advantage over everybody else. Read stories about Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or these others, and all of them have tried to gain advantage. And what they have done within our system, thanks to buying judges and buying people, putting their own people into high office, is they've gained more and more power, and they've rigged the system more and more. And we talked about this before. If there are 10 or 15 major issues where 70, 80, 90% of the American people agree that they should be implemented, from gun reform to healthcare, and none of those things happen, you have to ask why they're not happening.
Or immigration and economics or education.
Any of those, the environment, anything. Do a poll, 70, 80% of American people support it.
Right.
Why, if 80% support it and we're supposedly a democracy, doesn't it happen? It's because we're not a democracy. We're not. Okay? American capitalism killed American democracy.
As Rutherford
B. Hayes and Anne Rutherford, the actress, and Chris Hayes every night on MSNBC say.
Yeah. Say it would and will and does. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, getting to talked about some of the policies being promoted by Mamdani is the way to go. And I think that's where people should have those debates and conversations and help people not be afraid of ideas that, may work, may not work, but they're not the conversation they're having, certainly on, I hate to say it, but the right, it's a label, which is the Democratic Party is debating where to go in terms of ideology to a certain extent. And the Democratic and the Republicans are like, should we go full hoods off?
Well, no, they are. They're going to replace Donald Trump with Jesus Christ. They're going to say, we are the party of white Christian nationalism. And they think that's enough. It's not. It ultimately will be their undoing. The Democrats, on the election the other day, had a range of people, Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, who are national security Democrats, who are more moderate, Mamdani, Michelle Wu, who got reelected, the excellent mayor of Boston, the new mayor in Detroit. The Democrats said, well, there are a lot of things we can believe. We can believe different things. There's just one thing we have to believe in. Okay? The one thing we have to believe in is we have to stand up to Trump. We have to say no to Trump. We have to stop him from destroying our country. And so long as you're willing to cross that hurdle, you can believe a lot of things. This is the problem with those 8 centrists or moderates or whatever the fuck you want to call them, who said, "Oh no, we're going to fold on this on this issue of the shutdown," because they caved on the one thing that has to be non-negotiable here. People are looking for strong leaders to stand up to our corrupt, perverse, criminal leader.
That's enough, right? Like that's enough to campaign on. There's this debate that Democrats need to do a lot more than be anti-Trump. They need to give you something to vote for. And the truth is, no, you don't even have to, as long as you are going to fight and you show that you're going to fight, because he's doing so much damage. What people want is to stop him from doing all that damage.
Well, first of all, I think that's enough. I mean, I think that's a lot, right? But the reality is, of course, Dems stand for many things. Okay, they stand for healthcare. They stand for Medicaid. They stand for Medicare. They stand for believing government has a role to play. They stand for protecting the environment or better education and those kind of things. Don't tell me they don't stand for anything. The Republicans, when you say what you're against, is they're for destroying all of those things. So by saying I oppose the Republicans, you're also saying, yeah, I think you should have health. I think your grandma should be able to afford health care.
All right. Well, I think the future is pretty clear. Oh, one more thing I just wanted to, I was just thinking of asking you, which is we mentioned Nick Fuentes and the space that he's taking up, the lane that he's driving in, and it just brings up this, when was it that Charlie Kirk got murdered? Because I'm feeling like saying, just posting online to see what reaction it gets. Charlie who? Like, I cannot believe that pretty much everybody, a lot of people had it wrong, that was going to disappear and dissipate to a certain extent. Somebody else was going to fill the space. Another story was going to take over. And the only thing that seems to keep, that we talk about with Charlie Kirk, is how his widow seems to be behaving. And people aren't really saying much about Charlie Kirk. And I think that's fascinating. We don't have roving.
Charlie Kirk was a nobody. You know, he was just one other guy trying to get out there, capitalize on racism in the United States, to have a position in the racist right, you know. And the day before he was shot, he was on nobody's radar in any serious way. And the day after he got shot, he is, for all the reasons, and he shouldn't have been shot. It's disgusting that he was shot, but let's set that aside. The key thing is that guys like J.D. Vance stepped up and they said, you know, I'm going to carry this torch forward because of Jesus. And I wish my wife, J.D. Vance, I mean, how can you in one way, you know, you should run a marriage counseling podcast here, because how can you in 1 week, say that you wish your wife were another religion, and then grind on the widow of Charlie Kirk on national television?
You thought that his touching, the way that they touch was grinding, inappropriate. You thought it was.
That's the language we kids use.
I just say grind. I shorten it.
You shorten it to gur. No, they were gur. That's like Cardi B. Gur.
Wow, look at that. Who thought we're going to get a Cardi B reference here at the end from Rothkopf? Okay, well, all good stuff, all great insights. Very much appreciated. If you want more of this, head over to the Deep State Radio Network, Need to Know by David Rothkopf. Read his latest.
Need to Know is the Substack. Go support it. Sign up. Be a subscriber. Yeah,
it's so good. It's real good. It's one of my favorite places every day. Thank you very much for joining me when you do. I appreciate you, sir.
Same, man.
Bye, everybody watching live. Bye-bye.